All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Celo Camp's UX Audit. My name is Rachel Jacob. I am the program manager here at Celo Camp, and I'm really excited to be joining you all here today. Today, we bring to you a really great event where you'll get to see the UX designs of projects being built on Celo, and we will hear from leading UX experts who will audit teams they were matched with prior to the event. We are presently in the middle of Celo Camp with 18 finalists competing for the top 2 winning spots of the competition and for the 3 pennant awards. Today, you'll have the chance to hear from 7 of those teams and what they are working on with their projects before they go live to the public. These teams were selected based on project designs and votes from the auditors themselves. So to go over the schedule briefly, we will first hear a talk from, hi Vanessa. We will first hear a talk from Taylor Lahey from Celo on finding wholeness in brand identity. Then we'll have a Q&A from the audience with Taylor and Vanessa, who just came on screen from Celo. I'll do a presentation on the teams presenting, who our UX auditors are, and the conference directory. The teams will then present their projects in their individual booths. We will have 7 booths, and their Match UX experts will then give their advice to the team. So I'm really excited, and let's get started. I'm going to pass the floor over to Taylor.
Great. Hey, good day, everyone. I'm getting used to saying that because we're working with everyone all over the world. It's morning here in San Francisco, but good day to everyone. Let me first start by saying thank you to Upright for putting this on, and everyone at Celo Camp. I'm not sure if you identify as campers, but thank you, campers, and the team assembled to do the UX audit. It's just really cool to see everything happening in the Celo ecosystem. The talk today, again, is titled Finding Wholeness in Brand Identity. First off, let me start by saying that C-Labs is changing the story by making beautiful money. And on a personal level, I'm changing the story for creativity in business. I want to really strive to see what creativity can do in some of these really dynamic industries. And the one I'm currently a part of and we're all hacking on is in crypto and blockchain and decentralized finance. A little bit about myself and C-Labs. I was the first employee. I designed the logo, and today I lead visual communications for the Experience Circle at C-Labs, and that is some branding, graphic design, and art. This talk will cover the origin of Celo's brand identity, core personality traits that make Celo Whole, brand performance, and how those traits like move and act and communicate, and then we'll wrap with the brand kit. And this is very Celo focused, but I hope to strike a chord with the journey that you're on currently, and hopefully we'll put that into context throughout the talk. So let us first start with this, something we're all very acquainted with in technology, and that is getting your first line of code off the ground and starting to interact with the world, with the public, that is the internet. We're doing this over and over again, but now during a time that is it's just such a dynamic, uncertain time. And I want to say it's amazing that we have communities to help solve some of the hardest problems. Technology is attacking some now of the toughest problems, and we're doing this together in a place that we get to incubate and bounce ideas off. So first off, bravo to you all. But at some point, you're going to have to communicate to the broader world. And if you don't have a strong holder identity and you aren't able to answer some of these questions, you're not going to be able to make judicious decisions in how to navigate and communicate with your audience. And some of these questions they strike very deep. Like, what do you stand for? What can we expect from you? And how do you treat others? And how can we trust you? How can we believe in you? So let's put this back onto Celo and what we did to kind of answer those questions for ourselves. The Celo mission, which I'm sure many of us have seen over and over again, is to build a financial system that creates conditions for prosperity for everyone. I want to zoom in on just a few parts of these and kind of what created the core of Celo's brand identity. The first is build a financial system. This is meant to be hard. This is very, very hard. This is a cross-section between technology, economics, business, finance, cryptography, security, some of the greatest minds coming together to truly make a new financial system. That's the first part. But what's even more challenging and difficult is the last part of the mission. That is for everyone, truly for everyone. It's one thing to build a financial system that other brilliant people can understand, to benefit them and benefit people that we identify with already, like people that might be in our own countries or people of the first world. But it truly for everyone is where things get very dynamic and very difficult. So I split these into two, and I wanted to distill these two parts of the mission down and how that can inform what Celo's brand identity is. So along with that, we wanted to define what those two things can be as traits to our personality, Celo's personality, and how that can make it whole. This came during a time when we were redesigning the website. And what you see on the left is the 2018 website when we didn't quite know what we were doing yet. But what we did have is we set off the right track with this approachability mindset. And wanted to convey a story that other people can tell, and it had a different tone within the greater crypto space. And on the right is where the Celo that you know today. So we had to, in retrospect now, you're seeing like how things got resolved, but we were somewhere in there was the stuff on the right, and we needed to pull that out from the core mission and these two energies. So luckily, as a brand designer, it's awesome to be able to tell honest stories. And luckily, we were doing some of the things that we're doing the things that we need to do to kind of achieve this mission. And for everyone was represented by user advocacy. We were doing in-market research. We were having these really difficult conversations about how to affect financial inclusion. We had this design and product mindset and sensitivity to localization. Thinking about even in those details, how do we reach everyone? And then on the right is just this cutting edge technology and just seeing like who we're bringing in, and this humility behind the way we build was really inspiring. It was more aligned to truth and like what is the right thing to do and exploration around that. So with a lot of work, we narrowed down two primary traits, and that is approachability, or the approachable and the academic. Again, approachable kind of to me, and what we thought was very fitting is accessible, considerate, welcoming, inclusive, understandable, communicative, all of these things that were going to help dispel this difficult technology. And on the right is sort of the flavor of how we practice technology. We are knowledge seeking, and we practice holacracy, so it's more democratic and less hierarchical. We have like an institutional vibe of like how we do things as a dev shop or as a dev team, and we stand more by principles and have an understanding that what we're building is long-standing. It's closer to hardware than it is software in many ways. The permanence of the kind of type of technology we're building. So the type of thinking that goes into that, I felt was more academic. So ultimately, to be explicit, the approachable and the academic are words and meanings that we wanted to bring into our identity, and we felt comfortable embodying, in that we could properly express the mission with that. So how does this all perform? That was a fair amount of concept, and luckily, I can't speak for all of Celo, but I know, or building Celo, in my experience building Celo, but I know I was able to pull those things and bring actual practices of design from them. And I think the great example that I've actually come back to is first learning when I got into the business, some of these very difficult features that Celo wanted to implement into the protocol. And that was an ecology of money. And we went from the concept to illustration to animation, and doing that extra work really meant for an experience that people would give them a chance to kind of understand these difficult concepts. So And then we started filling out all these other design decisions. We have this like rough style of illustration, animation. We have inclusive, relevant photography. We use light colors when we're being approachable. And we have a round geometric font that represents that. And on the other side, there's this robust typographic layout and abstract illustrations that dispel some of these concepts. The dark background that references the terminal, and the serif font that is a little more timeless. So lastly, I want to wrap with the brand kit, which I'm sure everyone has taken a digital scroll through. But yeah, here's where it is today. And you have access to all of our thinking and the way we are able to build like all the assets that we use to build the website, and the kind of things that we believe the ecosystem can use to feel whole in terms of having access to basic design practices or design tools. And it's all public for everyone to benefit from. And just to kind of reiterate that, the brand kit's purpose, the way I see it, is, to provide these accessible tools and assets for the ecosystem to play with and build with before maturing and developing their own project identity. And I think it's really important for us as contributors at C Labs to be aligned with one of our values, and that is unique purpose. And when you're at a point and you're no longer in this space where we're building together, and you're going to go out and start affecting your communities and being out in the wild, you have to be able to identify with your own project and what that starts looking like. But until then, please leverage our brand and the way we think, and we could collectively grow what it means to be a part of the Celo ecosystem. Lastly, I'm going to end with this quote. It's a little wordy, but wow, the words are quite rich in terms of like what we talk about and what we believe in at Celo, and that is, the value of identity, of course, is so often with it comes purpose, by Richard Grant. So with that, thank you, you're valued, and we're going to go into Q&A.
All right. Thank you, Taylor. That was a really insightful talk. And I'm really excited to hear everyone's questions. If anybody has any questions, please, you can drop it in the Ask a Question tool on the bottom. Let me unmute Vanessa. So, hi, Vanessa. Okay, so thank you, Taylor and Vanessa, for joining our Q&A. So our first question is, what is the takeout from Celo in order to make this financial ecosystem broadly adopted by everyone, keeping in mind everyone could have really different backgrounds, tech, social, connectivity?
You want to take that one, Vanessa?
It's what is the takeaway, right? I think that's what. Yeah, I think there's a lot of lessons that we've learned through research from the early days. Actually, originally when we went to Kenya to learn from M-Pesa, we learned a lot, including the importance of showing a human face when you're trying to build trust. And so regardless of the community, Alon, actually, we were on Consensus Distributed yesterday and talked about the same thing when he was building the developer community around Celo Camp. It was all about personal relationships and how you actually get people involved and create influence through one-on-one relationships. And that was the same thing that we found in our first research trip and was verified in every follow-up pilot and research trip, is the importance of local communities and showing like the human infrastructure around a project to build trust, because trust in crypto, as probably a lot of you know, is one of the biggest barriers. But you can also look at that from a website or app level, where you could choose to use illustrations, which Taylor did for the first website, which were beautiful. But then we moved more towards photos on the website because we wanted to build trust and show, kind of make it tangible what it actually does and how you actually use it. And so that's been a big takeaway for us, is the importance of like photos and humans whenever possible, even events like these. Like I'm sorry we can't see you right now, but we will when we get in the booth. But like this helps build trust within a community.
Thank you. Okay, let's see what else we have here. What was your biggest challenge while thinking on the Celo brand and voice?
The biggest challenge? There are a lot of challenges. I think one that one is, I think, to continue to be curious. Like some of the work that Vanessa and I are doing today, working with legal, for instance, and kind of dispelling a lot of very technical legal jargon around economics. You know, just continuously trying to remember that curiosity and is really the way to kind of dispelling and communicating a lot of these difficult concepts. Without curiosity, it just doesn't get done. And that continuous, tenacious curiosity is really the biggest thing that I try to bring to every one of our projects.
I think for me, it's related. It's like the technology is so complex, and we hire a lot of folks outside of crypto, and so the ramp up period is quite long. And when they're in that period, I'm like, honor that like newness. We need to be able to speak to you and make sense to you. And so the more we can make the technology and the concepts and everything we're doing make sense to like anybody, is like, that's a win. And so it's a constant challenge to distill how our reserve works and how the trade, like we're building this website now for the reserve, and it's like the complexity is a lot, and it takes us even a while to like ramp up to that. And then how do we kind of then take it back into the brand voice in a way that makes sense? And I think something that's helped us is always going back to, well, who are we speaking to? And because it's an ecosystem, there's so many different players. Okay, and what do we know about them? And then how do we speak to them in a way that makes sense? And so constantly, at least from a brand voice perspective, reminding us like, who's the audience? And then how do we talk to them in a way that resonates?
Great. Thank you for that answer. Well, okay, the questions are starting to come in. What UX tips can you offer new blockchain startups wishing to build a strong product?
Wow. I think I spend a lot of time with Corey, who's also on the call, thinking about what it really means to embrace simplicity and meeting people where they are. These are things that we say over and over again in technology, and in bringing these difficult concepts into ways that we could consume them, but to really mean it, and to take extra rounds to really believe that you're coming out with something that is as simple as it could be, or communicative as it has to be, to really get across something complicated and difficult, or something very simple. Like really embodying that is so difficult, and there's no shortcut around it. It does take a lot of conversations. Your subconscious chews on it. You're gonna have a lot of shower moments if you are sitting with it. And I do have to say it gets easier and better, but it does take that difficult. You have to go into the darkness of what it means to build products in the space.
Great. Okay, next we have, how long did it take you to be happy with the results? Was it when the team felt it resonated with them?
I'm assuming it's in regard to the presentation.
Yeah, I think so.
It's a feeling. I really, when to go to your founders, collecting all this information and who we are, scanning who we are is, of course, I was in it, but to go to those who came up with the idea and basically name their first child, their collective first child, it takes a lot of it takes a lot of confidence, but definitely knowing as much as you can, and understanding who you're working for. It's really not different from working with your users, but there's that feeling when you try certain things and you start that dialogue between it was, in this case, us and the founders, that they lit up and they could start seeing the connections, they start seeing themselves in it, and they started seeing the greater community unfolding with these early concepts. So I think that's where we realized we're on the right track. Yeah.
Okay, great. And now we have time for one more question. How did you face the challenge of onboarding users with crypto knowledge?
So for user adoption, we're very much doing a regional approach, so it depends on the country. And then with the Alliance for Prosperity, basically we'll be working with different partners in market, focusing a lot on education and reaching, like kind of what I was touching on earlier is like, first things first is really understanding the audience, and we still have a few different use cases. And so it's really about that market and that use case. And then if we're working with different organizations locally, how do they communicate and how can we learn from them? For example, Yellow Card in Nigeria, and then building education tools and resources for their existing flows and systems. And so it depends if it's a grassroots approach versus like a partner-driven or an alliance member-driven integration. But it's very much localized. There's no kind of one method for all countries for adoption.
Okay, Taylor and Vanessa, thank you so much for your insight and advice to everyone watching here. Unfortunately, we don't have any more time for a Q&A because we have to go on to the next portion of the event. So right now I'm going to present all the teams and all the UX experts, and I want to tell you how the session is going to run and where everyone will need to go once I am done presenting. So I'm going to share my screen with you all. Give me a moment. Okay. Is it in full screen? No. Okay, great. All right. Okay, so for the next portion of the UX audit, each team has been assigned an individual booth with one UX expert that they were matched with. All 7 sessions will run simultaneously. So you'll see on the top of the screen, you'll see sessions. You'll see booth 1 through 7. And everyone who's watching, you can switch between the sessions as you please, but we do recommend that you stay between 1 to 2 booths for the duration of the audit for maximum learning experience. From 15:35 to 15:50, each team will introduce themselves and present their projects in their individual booths. And from 15:50 to 16:15, our UX experts will audit and give their advice to the teams that they were matched with. So who are our 7 teams and our 8 UX experts? In booth 1, we have team Impact Market and UX expert Taylor Lahey. Impact Market is open, their aim is open crowd finance for social impact, starting with a decentralized universal basic income mechanism for vulnerable communities. And our UX expert is Taylor Lahey, who we just heard from, who leads visual communication at C-Lab. He's passionate about building communities, telling stories, and collaborating through illustration, creative direction, and character design. Then in booth 2, we have Team Dunya Payments and UX expert Rafael Ducan. Dunya Payments is building a wallet that allows people in sub-Saharan Africa to send and receive money directly on their phone, nationally and internationally. Rafael Ducan is founder of Healthify. He's a product designer based in Tel Aviv with experience in delivering UX and UI design for software products. In booth 3, we have Team Parsec and UX expert Sean O'Connor. Parsec is, their aim is blockchain monitoring and workflow automation platform that serves as a multi-level bridge between blockchain transactions and off-chain applications. Sean is co-founder and product lead at Saffron Solutions, and he has a track record of helping businesses develop new products and launch them into market. In booth 4, we have Team Air Protocol and UX expert Noam Salman. Air Protocol is an open source, peer-to-peer decentralized protocol that enables censorship resistant and trust minimized on-chain to off-chain asset exchange. Noam is founder of Nosaman Studio and Control Zero. He's a product designer who specializes in graphical user interface and its effects on usability. Then we have in booth 5, Team Keisha Labs and UX expert Corey Lee. Keisha Labs is a venture builder and development studio whose primary focus is in blockchain-driven innovation. They aim to provide Africans with a cheap and social solution for remittance and paying for goods and services, and to become the WeChat of Africa. Corey Lee, partner of product design at C Labs, is passionate about understanding the models people bring to their interactions. And then we have in booth 6, Team Trust Startup and UX expert Amichai Oren. Trust Startup is a security app that will help build human computational models based on the user's mobile device sensors and using zero-knowledge tests that are confirmed through verification. Amichai is CEO of Spark. He's a creative thinker and creator and professional digital architect and a UX UI designer. And then last but not least, we have booth 7, Team Z-Event and UX expert Sasha Tanais. Z-Event is the first decentralized financial event management platform using blockchain technology to give autonomy and trust to all stakeholders from the event owner to the users. Anyone can create, manage, and own a wallet dedicated for events, bars, merchants, or even hotels in the spirit of a collaborative economy. And Sasha, our UX expert, is a senior product designer at Consensus, a UX consultant, and UX auditor. I'd like to thank all the UX experts for joining us today, and we're really excited to hear your advice. Just a couple of notes. Stay tuned for more CeloCamp events, including our Idea Fair, which will happen on June 11th. Our top teams will present their final products then. Also, don't forget to vote for your favorite teams to proceed into the last phase of the camp. We presently have 18 teams in the camp. You can find all of their information on their team pages on celocamp.com. I'd like all the teams and auditors, you can now make your way to the booth. And audience members, we really hope you enjoy the event. You can choose 1, 2 booths, however many you'd like. But I really hope that you guys, really take, wait, am I back on here? I really hope that you guys learn from this event, and we have some great experts that have joined us today. So please make your way to the booth, and the event should end at 16:15 GMT. Yeah, thank you all for joining, and see you in the booth.